All right, let's get started. Today, we're opening up a cold case file. This is a forensic investigation into a crime that, honestly, affects every single executive, every leader out there. The slow, steady erosion of our strategic sovereignty. And the victim? Critical thinking. Let's begin.
So, here's our investigative roadmap for today. First, we're going to visit the original crime scene. Then, we'll identify a new, very dangerous suspect. After that, we'll uncover their MO, their modus operandi. Then, we'll figure out where you fit into all of this. And finally, lay out exactly what you need to do to solve this case.
Now, you have to understand, this investigation didn't just start. It's been a long-running case. If you've read the book, Who Killed Creativity, you know the original suspects. We're talking about those corporate forces, the creative killers, like control and fear, that have been slowly strangling innovation for decades. And the result of this long-running crime? It's a condition we're seeing pop up everywhere. Cognitive atrophy. See, your ability to think, it's like a muscle. And when you start outsourcing that mental workout, those neural pathways you need for real abstract reasoning, they just start to weaken. You're not just saving time, you're actually losing your edge. But just when we thought we had a handle on the case, it's taken a very sharp turn. Yeah, the old suspects, they're still out there, but a new person of interest has appeared on the scene, someone who is polished, polite, and frankly, dangerously efficient. This changes everything.
And so we come to our new suspect, artificial intelligence. Now look, it's not an obvious villain, right? In fact, it shows up looking like the ultimate assistant, the perfect partner. But we have to take a hard look at its role in this cold case of declining critical thought.
Let's enter Exhibit A into the record. The scene? A huge tech keynote. Mark Zuckerberg is up on stage, about to show the world his company's new AI-powered smart glasses. The whole audience is seeing the world from Mark's POV, complete with these hype-filled texts. Let's go with a little rocket ship emoji.
But then the demo actually begins, and it just fails. Not once, but again and again, the glasses just won't connect. I don't know what to tell you guys, Zuckerberg says to the silent crowd. The big promise of the future just dissolves into a technical train wreck on a global stage.
So, what's the final verdict on Exhibit A? What does the evidence tell us? Well, this was a creative masterpiece of marketing that completely failed the most basic, most critical test of all. Does it actually work in the real world? It's a classic case of hype exceeding bandwidth. And this whole episode points directly to our suspect's primary MO, its method of operation. We call it cognitive offloading. Look, our brains are literally hardwired to find the path of least resistance. AI offers the ultimate shortcut, and we are more than happy to hand over the hard work. But this convenience, it comes at a huge cost to our cognitive musculature.
So how exactly does this suspect operate? And maybe the most crucial question of all, how do we end up becoming, well, its willing accomplices? This brings us to the modus operandi, what we're calling the validation trap.
Let me paint you a picture. A workflow that might seem alarmingly familiar. A director uses AI to generate a 50-page report. They send it up to the CEO, who then uses their AI to summarize it into 3 bullet points, and then asks their own AI to draft a congratulatory reply. What's the result? Zero cognitive effort has been spent by 2 humans to have 2 robots talk to each other.
And what that workflow does is it turns us into intellectual tourists. We get to visit all these big ideas and data points through AI summaries, but we never truly inhabit them. We get the facts, sure, but we totally miss out on the insight, the kind that only comes from the struggle of real critical analysis.
And this, right here, is the smoking gun of the entire investigation. If your primary value in your role today is just validating a robot's opinions, you aren't future-proofing your career. You are actively, meticulously documenting your own obsolescence. Let that one sink in for a minute.
Okay, so this is where it gets personal. You have to ask yourself a critical question. In this new world we're in, what is your role? Are you the pilot, the flight path checker, or are you just a passenger? It's time to define your level of cognitive agency.
So let's break these roles down, shall we? The pilot is in command. They use AI as a powerful tool to think harder, to amplify their own judgment. The flight path checker? Well, they're kind of a middle manager for the AI's opinions, just validating the output. And the passenger? They're just along for the ride, passively consuming whatever the machine spits out.
And the difference in mindset here is, well, it's stark, it's night and day. The pilot demands provocations from their tools. The passenger just asks for summaries. A pilot acts like an architect, owning the process and prioritizing insight. A passenger acts like a validator, outsourcing the thinking and prioritizing speed. So I have to ask, which one are you?
But here's the good news. This cold case, it's not unsolvable. It can absolutely be solved, but it's going to require you to take action. It's time to talk about how you can reclaim the cockpit. So let's move to our final interrogation.
All right, first question on the stand. We'll call this the survival test. If your access to all AI was suddenly cut off for 1 week, would you still be the most capable, the most insightful person in your role? Or has your core expertise slowly migrated to a server that you don't even control?
Next question. And this one's about that validation trap we talked about. Be really honest with yourself here. When was the last time you looked at an AI suggestion and you truly disagreed with its logic and you rewrote the whole thing from scratch based purely on your own insight and experience? And that brings us to what I call the exercise paradox. We've gained all these hours back, right? All this efficiency. But what are you doing with that time? Are you using it to tackle bigger, harder problems, to lift heavier intellectual weights? Or have you just invented a cure for the mental exercise you need to stay sharp, leaving your brain totally out of breath when real complexity strikes? And that leaves us with one final question, the one that really defines your entire future in this landscape. When you opened your laptop this morning, did you consciously step into the cockpit as the pilot, or did you just check in as another passenger on a flight path you didn't plan and you don't control? The choice is yours.